Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday. Happy 4th of July for all of those that celebrate. Welcome to Bounty Hunt, a UTD Network podcast where we hunt down all the extra content in the Star Wars universe. I'm one of your hosts, Eric Eilerson, and joining me today is the full crew to talk about the latest episode of The Bad Batch. Dr. Corey Helton's here, fresh off night shift.
Oh, no, sorry, I got a mouthful of chocolate. You're so delicious.
just this is the way we like you.
That's right.
And then with a mouthful of chocolate, mouthful of chili, Dr. Charles Hankel. Hey, man.
Hey, Corey, you're not going to share that chocolate? I would also like some chocolate.
I mean, we can
rude,
try.
frankly.
We can try to do that. What's that Brady Bunch shit where we like hand it up? All right, let's see. All right, get it. There you go. Nothing. It was a trick.
Diagonal.
This way. Here we go. Get it.
I need to
Get it.
This is so
Oh, wow.
Yeah, still nothing. Son of a gun.
Also, my goodness, y'all spoiled with the 4 panel. They didn't know Wes Jenkins was here, so you don't get a good segue today.
Happy 4th of July, everyone. I don't need a segue for
got the
America's
hat.
birthday. That's right. Check it out. These are actually one of our softball hats, so it came in pretty
I'll believe
freaking
it.
handy.
Well, guys, in honor of the 4th of July holiday, we're going to spend today talking about a traitorous planet. As we said, this is our recap show about The Bad Batch. We're going to be talking about Season 1, Episode 10, Common Ground. A spoiler warning right now. We're going to be doing full spoilers on what happened in the episode. We're going to recap it. We're going to talk about some themes and some cool questions. So if you haven't seen this episode, pause us, watch it, and come on back. We're digital media. We'll be here. You know, we don't expire until the heat death of the universe, which is closer than we all think. All right. So this is Bounty Hunt, y'all. This is a weird one. I can already feel it. All right. This episode, we begin on Raxus, the former capital of the Separatist movement, where the Empire is imposing a bunch of strict regulations. They try to use Senator Avi Singh as their mouthpiece, but eventually he refuses, is arrested, and tells his trusty droid at GS8 to follow his orders and contact Sid. Back to the Bad Batch. Sid sends the Batch to go free the Senator, but without Omega this time to keep her safe. And they discuss how odd it is for them to head to a Separatist world after all they've been through. Meanwhile, Omega notices a bunch of Sid's patrons playing Dejarik and discovers she has a knack for the strategy game, and she begins playing and working back the Bad Batch's debt. Back on the mission, the Bad Batch expertly breaks into the building housing the Senator for their extraction mission, stunning clones, hacking security, and just being badasses all the way around. After obtaining the Senator, the crew commandeers an old Clone Wars AT-TE Walker, and they begin barging through the square in an attempt to escape. Tons of units of clones come out and take them down on foot and in walkers, but the crew uses a subterranean tunnel system to escape with Senator Singh, who lives to fight another day. The Bad Batch then returns to Sid, where they find out that Omega has successfully erased their entire debt with her Dejarik winnings, and Hunter challenges her to a game himself for her chance to join them back in the field. All right, gents, let's do what we always do. Let's go around, rate this episode 1 to 10. Charles, let's start with you.
All right, so this was definitely more of like a one-off episode. It wasn't kind of following the overall story, and that's why I've been giving some recent episodes some 9s. Most of the one-offs I've given 7s. I'm giving this one an 8, though, mostly
Solid.
Because the animation, this planet was incredible, and I really actually enjoyed the Senator and his droid as characters. I kind of felt like they could have been like secondary characters in a novel. Like if there was a book talking about Raxus and I don't know, some Jedi or the rebellion was there. I felt like they could have been kind of characters in a novel. Really enjoyed it. So 8.
That's really cool. Fun fact, the droid GS8 was voiced by the actress, I forget her name right now, but she's the sister in Fleabag. If anyone watched Fleabag on Amazon Prime, she's the one that goes, I look like a pencil. So, fun fact. Fleabag's great. Go watch it. Wes, 1 to 10, man. What do you think?
I'm going to give this one a 7.8. I like Charles had said, the animation in this was great. Like you could see the light pouring through the trees on Raxus, which was really cool. And we got our first glimpses of basically the Empire taking stronghold and somebody rebelling against it. So I really enjoyed that.
Great point.
So that was a really good part. So that's wasn't the it kind of felt like a filler episode, right? I mean, but that's kind of why I gave it a little bit of a lower rating. But I did like the animation, and there was there was a couple first instances that we can get into later on.
Love that. Corey, how about you?
Yeah, my gut reaction is also to give it a bit of a lower score. I kind of thought it was a bit of a filler episode in some ways, but yeah, you're right. The animation really should drive that score up. The fact that we got the visualization of a planet again with this new animation style is awesome, and there's some redeeming qualities. So I'll give it an 8.
That's solid. Yeah, I'll round this out. When I first watched it, I had all these same thoughts as y'all. I enjoyed it. Again, going to more of a mission of the week kind of thing wasn't as fun, but I just watched it again right before we started recording today, and I had a lot of fun. I really, really enjoyed it the second time around. I think once you watch it again without the weight of expectations, we always say manage your expectations, and then we never listen to it ourselves. Once you just kind of know it's not really going to be part of like the Crosshair Camino stuff and just watch it for what it is, it's a really good time. So I'll give it like an 8.4. I really thought it was fun. I love seeing Raxus again. And let's dive right into that first all. So, for those of you that don't know, the planet Raxus Secundus was the meeting site of the Confederate Senate, where in Clone Wars we saw Ahsoka and Padme go there. They met Mina Bonteri and Lux Bonteri, right? So, to start off, one, how cool is it seeing this planet again? Again, we haven't been to the Separatist planets in a while. And two, is this the most detailed visual planet we've seen so far? Because like the chat's already saying, like you guys have said, oh my god, the detail on this planet.
It's nuts. Yeah, I commented that when I was watching it live. It's just like, man, the visualization of the trees, the way the wind blew the trees, and like there were leaves like flying around in the shots and stuff. I'm like, dude, it's like a freaking video game engine. It's incredible.
Yeah, I love the video game comparison because I was watching it at the end when they were taking the tanks out. I'm like, oh, I want to play this level. Like, this just looks like a fun game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be a good map for Battlefront. I would love that. And I would just love the vacation. I would just love the vacation.
Vacation.
I mean, it
looks like a really great planet to visit during the fall.
Yep.
Yes.
I love that. Yeah, I was also really impressed that when we started there, because I feel like most episodes we started with the batch and then we go somewhere, unless it's like Camino. So I liked starting with these new characters. So that was a brave move, and I liked that it was a crowd scene filled with a bunch of different types of characters. Because I feel like in Clone Wars we get crowd scenes, and if you look close, you can see the copy paste just to kind of fill out. Which it's animation, I get it. It's a lot of people, but Charles, before we were recording, you mentioned you were seeing a bunch of different types of people in that crowd.
I don't think I did mention that, but maybe someone else did.
Was it Wes?
Yeah, it was me.
Dang it! It's the other white guy in the Batward's hat.
Yeah, so we had like Pantorans. Pantorans were there. We had the goat people. I thought I saw some Mandalorians. It's like some.
Yeah, but not armored, but like they're
not
citizens.
Citizens of Mandalore. Sorry.
They all have well-defined jawlines.
Yes.
Yeah, you can cut glass on. That's how they cut the buildings on Mandalore. They just hit it with their chins.
That's right.
Repeatedly.
But it was super diverse. There wasn't any one species or like sector that was taking over. It was like everybody had some representation. It was great.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Well, that was interesting too, because we always talk about how the Empire is so non-diverse, like especially in the novels. That's what we get into. Like the bigger they get, the more it's all human-centric. And to see the Separatist capital be like all these different races, like we had all those guys. We had some Twi'leks in there. Like I thought that was a really cool visual distinction on taking the planet that we've all thought of as bad guys for 7 seasons of Clone Wars.
Right.
And then the first time we go back to a Separatist planet in Bad Batch, it's like, oh, these are the actually fully diverse population trying to fight back against this government. I thought that was a really cool choice.
Yeah, the description of the episode was something like Bad Batch struggles with ideology or something like that, which is very interesting. And like I was like, ooh, what's that going to be? And as soon as they brought up the fact they were going to a Separatist planet and they were like really kind of battling with that, I thought that was really cool. So that's really what drove the score up a lot for me, is that like I never thought we would be like fighting on a, I always what does he say? He says like I always thought we would end up on Raxus eventually or something like that. Yeah.
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 When Hunter says it is the like never thought I'd die fighting side by side with an elf kind of
Yeah.
thing.
I'd like to point out one thing that it's Star Wars laziness, and it's been apparent since
Great.
this started. So Raxus is the separatist planet, and then like the capital city is Raxalon. So if we're looking in reality terms, that's like somebody coming to Earth and going to Earthington.
Earthington.
That's
Earth-
it.
Earth
That's
City.
why I love,
Yeah.
dude. Naboo is in the Naboo system, which is kind of just like a giant middle finger to all the other planets in the
I know.
system. Like, no, not us.
Oh, man.
They also have like so and so Prime, which means that there's like 2 or 3 of those bad boys.
Yeah. Well, this is Raxus Secundus. So it's
Exactly.
this isn't even the main Raxus.
It's a cool name. We got to use this name again for that planet next door.
Yeah, Raxus. Oh man, you've been to Raxus Tertiary? Man, it's awesome. Raxus
but-
Septus.
But talking about like the whole ideology part, I don't know why. I'm really high on this Avi Singh character. I thought it was really cool to actually hear him whispering back and forth with his droid GS8 about whether or not he was going to back the Empire or not when he addressed the crowd, and having him kind of visualizing that struggle and then seeing him decide to call out the Empire for what it is, knowing that he was going to be arrested and imprisoned. I had a lot of respect for him, and I felt like they got a lot of depth of his character in that relatively short scene.
Yeah.
Shades of Padme. Like Padme would have been proud.
Yeah, and I think you said it really well earlier that the droid and GS8 and Avi Singh were probably two of the stronger, one episode characters I think we've had in honestly any animation. Like I think they really made a really strong case for their need to be in this episode. Like you're saying, he really had a lot of great ideals, a little bit of like early rebellion stuff, but it kind of showed that, we don't have to wait till we get the organized rebellion. There were people from day one trying to speak out against the Empire for their people. And I think that's honestly something we haven't really seen yet. And that was really kind of a cool light to show for the Bad Batch. And I want to ask you guys on that note, Corey, you said it really nicely. What did you think about the Batch's reaction to going to Raxus in the first place, especially Echo? That's the one that really hit me, because knowing what they all went through, what he went through at the hand of the Separatists, like that's huge.
Yeah, I mean, I really like seeing the humanity of the Separatists versus versus the Republic. Like, that's been a recurring theme through the Clone Wars, and then now we're seeing it again in Bad Batch. And I think it's cool to see that, like, this was all a plan manipulated by the Emperor, and it was just there was like a real movement, and they just manipulated that, right? So I thought it was really, really cool to see the Bad Batch sort of struggle with that. Particularly Echo, because I mean he was kind of more, I don't know, he was a reg, right? So
yeah,
probably a little more
and
susceptible
a
to
prisoner
that.
of war. I mean, for years he had the Separatists going into his mind. So it's
That's
like
a good point.
Yeah, it's like how you hear about those old like the World War II vets that can't quite let it go, that are always like, "Hey man, it's fine now," and they're always just like, it's really hard for them to let go of that intensity because they were.
You won't buy Sony products because they're Japanese.
Exactly. And it's like, yo, man, you can't.
That's
And
real.
it's just like that hard line. And to watch like Hunter and Echo, I think, had it the most. And then was it Wrecker? Or no, was it Tech that was like, we're not here to play politics. We're here to like do a job or something like that?
Yeah, Hunter
Tech-
really. Sorry, go ahead, Charles.
I think it was Echo said, like when they were flying in, he was like, I can't believe we're going to help a separatist. And I think it was Tech that said something like, so you have said repeatedly. And I was just like, dang.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hunter really seemed to not like struggle with that at all. He was just like, whatever, we have a job to do. Let's just friggin' do it. Like, it was very interesting. Yeah.
Like, this is surprising. But and also, like, the Bad Batch, they seemed less morally, at least when we met them, they were less morally about the Republic and like another grand day in the 501st. Like, there was none of that. They're like, all right, we're really good at what we do. What do you need us to do and come in?
Yeah.
Whereas, Echo has always been fascinating to me because he's riding that line of knowing what it was like as a rookie, knowing what it was like as a reg, and then becoming a prisoner of war, and now being spec ops, and now being on the run. Like, he's kind of had every avenue, and then they're like, hey, come help this separatist senator who you thought was your mortal enemy for years.
Right.
Like,
I think it speaks to also there are definitely failings within the Republic during the Clone Wars era because, and we know what a lot of them were, but like
strong take.
no, but what I mean by that is clearly they think all separatists are evil. We saw Ahsoka kind of thought that as well in Clone Wars episodes when they went to Araxis, and then she met Mina Bonteri, and all the senators actually seem pretty cool, like good, decent people. And if you just look at what their base mission is, like there's no evil intent there. Like they just don't want to be part of a giant republic or a giant empire. Yeah. And like Corey said, it was Dooku that really twisted that and used that to kind of fuel his plan and Sidious's plan. So it's interesting that the soldiers of the Republic, they just think, oh, separatists evil. Like how can we go help this guy? Like it can't be a good person. And it's not at all true. So, I mean, that just shows you the propaganda and the war machine that, took place in the Republic as well.
Yeah. And speaking of propaganda and war machines, literally, I want to give a shout out to Nathan and our team. Brought this up in our Utini Slack Bad Batch channel that we got really, really strong Tiananmen Square vibes in the beginning of this, didn't we? Like we've had a lot of like World War II imagery, Vietnam imagery in Star Wars is very not unsubtle, right? But in the beginning, I really liked how Nathan put it, and Corey, you commented on it as well, that the tanks rolling into the square to get people, like that was kind of chilling for me to start, because that's such a clear picture of world history.
Yeah. The reference that we were actually talking about was it looked very similar to like Tiananmen Square. I think that's how you pronounce it, Tiananmen.
Yep,
but
I think that's right. My bad.
Something like that. Yeah, but yeah, like that looks very similar to that, which is very dark period of communist Chinese history, and like. Definitely had that vibes. And, when they rolled in the tank too, like I thought it was super cool. Like the whole tank chase scene was really interesting and like very reminiscent
you love
of
your
like
tanks. You love all tanks.
I know, man. Like I do. And like getting those sort of, it's really classic, talking about World War II, really classic imagery to get out of like tank battle stuff. It's like slow and tedious and lining up the shots, and like it was good, man. It was really, really good.
Yeah, I was thinking that when I was watching, I was like, why doesn't this tank shoot the other tank from behind? And as I'm thinking this, all these questions were answered. It's like he did try to shoot, and Wrecker had moved the cannon over a little bit so it missed the shot.
Yep.
And then it's like, why doesn't that other tank just shoot one of those lobbing shots on top of their tank? And they did, but they missed. And I was like, wow, they're answering all the questions that I've had. And so that's really good storytelling, really good animation by the tanks themselves. And the last shot that they had, whenever they shot the tank, whenever the Bad Batch had left through the subterranean era, when it hit the tank shook and it moved a little, and then it had smoke come out. Like in earlier animation, it wouldn't have had all that, right?
Oh no, everybody bump. Like
I was actually gonna comment on that. It's like the explosion animation, the realism is much better. Like that first shot, like it didn't just like hit the tank and it blew up or something dumb, right? Like it blew a big hole in it, a smoking hole, and then there was some delay, and then the tank crashed. It was very realistic, like it felt like, whereas previous animation would have just been like, boom and done. And they all survived miraculously somehow, even though the tank literally exploded. They were inside of it, right? So it was good. It was good. All the smoke inside the cockpit too that stayed there the whole time. Like when Tech was trying to work on stuff in the cockpit, and it was like smoky the whole time. Like it was good. It was awesome.
Yeah, and the light was refracting based on like where's the smoke, where's the like someone had to mathematically calculate in a computer where's the light coming from, where's the source, how big is the opening, is there smoke, is there haze, like so much stuff. And I really liked, especially in the tank animation, I want to ask you guys about the battles around them, because one of the things we've always loved about the Bad Batch crew is that they fight like crazy. They're awesome. We sometimes forget how much better they are at individual combat than regs, right? But like in that Walker chase, we had Hunter like sliding across and like stunning people, and Wrecker like jumping up and like they're throwing grenades and bashing people with doors. Like it had been a while, I think, since we got a full-on Bad Batch like two guys against a platoon. So what'd you guys think about? Go ahead.
Speaking of that, I was gonna say I found it a little annoying that it was all stuns. Why was that?
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about that. Like, I mean, the easy, obvious, I guess, canon explanation is that they don't want to kill fellow clones, I suppose. But that has not been a restriction in earlier episodes.
Yep, they've used live fire before.
Yeah, so why did they do that? You guys have any? Ideas? It wasn't commented on, right? I don't think so.
No.
No.
I thought this was interesting because so we get the walkers are very Clone Wars, right? We've always seen these walkers as good guys. Whenever the ATTs come in, that means that the good guys in the episode of television are going to win. This one, it's turned around. All right, those are now the bad guys. And I think the Bad Batch in this one, we're also dealing with, like, this is organized clone army. So morally, do we want to kill these clones that are just doing their job? But also, it's an extraction mission. So maybe the idea is, do we want a body count of, like, a ton of dead soldiers while we're trying to just take this guy away? Because also, they're not against Raxus the planet.
Yeah.
They don't want any, like... They don't want to misfire and hit civilians. I think they don't want as many casualties. So I think a combination of the morality of the clones just doing their jobs, I guess, but also the fact that it's supposed to be a stealth mission. It's supposed to be about extracting as opposed to killing.
Yeah,
maybe, but it was different.
I think we often underestimate the psychological toll that it would take to kill a clone of yourself too,
sure.
right? Like, I mean, the closest we could imagine is if you have a twin sibling or something like that.
You
like,
just
that's
kill 'em,
you.
yeah, you know.
That's you in that armor in front of you. I find it very understandable to not want to kill that person, but I do agree that it felt like a shift that wasn't necessarily addressed with story.
It was really noticeable, and I don't know why it was so noticeable. Like, I don't know, it was weird. Also, the stun did not last very long. Like, there was that one, you know, the captain or officer or whatever that was on the stage in the beginning. Like, they stunned her when they first captured the senator, and she like came out onto the balcony. Like, it was a very short period of time. So I don't know, that was sort of odd too. That there's not been really good consistency in Star Wars storytelling in general about, like, how long does the stun bolt last? Like, is there a setting that you put, like, all right, 8 minutes? Like, is that what you click on your gun? Right?
It's like a microwave.
Exactly.
The answer is
30 seconds.
It lasts as long as the storyteller needs it to last.
Exactly.
That's
exactly
the
it.
rule.
That's exactly it. Which is maybe, you know, always somewhat
maybe it's
goofy.
something they're gonna revisit in a later episode, because they could be like, well, if we had killed everybody, then the question would have arose with the people, whose side are you really on? Because they're both killing, right? They're both killing people. So I mean, nobody's really good in that sense either. So
yeah. Well, that's why the Clone Wars were so easy to tell, because I mean, we mentioned earlier the separate that we see. Yeah, we see the Separatists now as people, right? In the square, they're just all these different races that are trying to be free. Whereas in the Clone Wars, like, yeah, they're all droids, they're all robots, and shooting droids can be comic. But every time we shoot a person, like we've mentioned it in this show, whenever Fennec Shand like shot that cop through the chest, it was like, whoa, that's a person.
It's
like,
excessive.
it takes you a second. So
that was very intentional by George Lucas too, right? To use droids. He specifically he said the good guys can't be going around just murdering real people. And that was sort of a shift in the prequels. Obviously, that definitely happened in the original trilogy, but that's also why he had everyone in helmets. And so even though this show is darker and kind of more gritty than a lot of the stuff we've seen before, I do think they probably are trying to pay some respect to that as well.
Yeah, you know, the imagery, I guess, is true too. Because I'm thinking about the last time, it's really the only other time I can think of off the top of my head when we actually did see live fire shooting at other clones was in the previous episode with Crosshair, right? And there was a lot of evil imagery around those clones, right? Of like the way that the shuttle landed, all the clones lined up, the Empire, it looked very Empire and evil, and just the imagery was all very dark. Like, this is the evil Empire. Like, maybe the Empire that's on Raxus is still sort of the pretend Empire that we don't know is evil yet. Like, some of that imagery could certainly play into why they decided to do that. Or maybe they just wanted a bunch of nerds on Star Wars podcasts to debate about it. I don't know. One of the two.
That's what they always want.
That's right.
But I think that is an interesting point, though, as we go further. Like, the batch is evolving. Like, they are going from the spec ops, you know, come in and get the job done guys, to, like, the dad batch, as we affectionately call them. But, like, that is how they are. Like, they're softening episode by episode. I think that their attitude towards violence and killing is shifting. And I really wonder now, the last thing I really wanted to talk about is a great transition from this. Where do we go now? Because every job they've had to do the last, 5 or 6 episodes has been to try to erase their debt from Sid. Even the Crosshair episodes, they wanted to steal weapons from Braca to repay their debt. That debt's gone now. So we have 6 episodes left in the season, and now they are debt-free. So What do you think? You know, they started this episode, Hunter saying we want to lay low, we don't want to do anything, and Sid's like, nope, you got debt to pay. Well, that's not the case anymore.
Yes, this
So-
this child has paid off your debt using gambling.
I love it. That's the best morality lesson we've had all series.
And there's apparently there's no age restriction on gambling. In,
absolutely
in the
not.
Star
Why would
Wars
there be?
world, which is fine. Which is
That'd
fine.
be lame.
That'd be
ridiculous.
lame.
You just have to be supervised by an adult. That's
course.
all.
Exactly. But where do you guys think they go now? Like, would you stay with Sid, who is, I kind of kept you safe-ish thus far?
I
Do you think they go
my
elsewhere?
money is still on they're gonna eventually hook up with Rex again, and like this I thought this was gonna be the episode where they did it because like who's
They're gonna
paying?
hook up with Rex? That's a
Okay.
different show.
Oh my god, this
Yeah.
was who is paying Sid like to rescue this senator? Like, I mean,
Right.
these have got to be like rebellion ties, right?
I think the droid. I think the senator I feel like the senator wired money through the droid, and the droid like sent the money to Sid. I guess, but that's also my opinion.
I followed your instructions to the letter, which is what? Like, if something ever happens to me, I want you to hire this person off the black market, and hopefully they can rescue me. Like, what the heck does that even mean?
Yeah, who doesn't have a black market person that if you ever get kidnapped will rescue you? Come on, are you guys
don't.
children? You don't, wow,
I have.
I've had my
three.
black market.
Three.
But that is a good point, though. Like, I think the hookup with the rebellion and Rex makes sense. Do you think they want to get Crosshair back at this point, or do they think he's working Kaminoans? Like, we just got to go.
I don't know. I don't know how that's going to conclude. I don't know if
I
he's going to
think-
turn good. I mean, he's a pretty unredeemable character. The more the show goes on, he gets kind of more and more evil. So I don't know.
True.
He was going to
Yeah.
cook him with an engine, for Christ's sake. I mean,
Yeah,
come on.
not a great look.
I mean,
He
they're
was just gonna
finally
lightly toast them.
out of debt. And what would you do if you were finally out of debt?
Not work for
Vacation home. Vacation home. That's what they're doing. They're going to be saving up, and they're moving off planet.
They're going to Naboo, is
maybe
what you're saying?
Alderaan, maybe
I heard
Alderaan, and
Scarif's
that's
nice
how we
this
get
time
rid
of
of them
year.
to begin with.
Oh my God! If this series ends with them retiring to Alderaan,
Oh God!
and then they're like, "Well, that's what happened."
Alderaan is like the safest planet possible. Nothing ever happens on Alderaan.
Oh my God! The Bad Batch take up Bail Organa's guest room, and then that's how the series ends. Is that they're gonna
What's the
be,
Empire
like,
gonna do? Blow up the planet? Come on.
You may file when
God.
ready.
I'm sorry that
Wow.
that threw me, man. I'm like,
That's dirty. How dare I on such a holiday? I'm sorry if you had to listen to that
although
live.
I would love that, guys. Every single new character brought in the next 5 years just always goes to Alderaan. That's how they. Every
you get rid
single
of it.
one is always just blown up at the end.
Oh, terrible.
That would be.
I think based on what you were saying though, Sid's not just gonna go away. I don't think, even though that they are no longer in debt to her. I think we're gonna see some payoff from that character. Either it turns out she is on their side and like is a decent person, or she betrays them.
Yeah.
Which is what I initially suspected of her. But she showed a lot more of herself, I think, in recent episodes, that she maybe does have a kinder heart than she initially was portrayed to have, especially with how she was with Omega during this episode. So we're gonna get some payoff from that, but I don't think she's gonna be in season 2 and season 3 if there's a season 3.
I agree. I think she didn't have to give Omega any winnings. Like she could have scammed her, but she's like, no, you're sure. We'll let you help out with this. That was very benevolent of her. Also, Jacob in the chat just said retiring to Alderaan is the Star Wars equivalent of being sent to the farm upstate.
Oh my God. Got
Oh, God.
mice and men vibes.
How do you guys think we're gonna swing around back on Omega? Like this sort of revealing in this episode that she's like a really talented strategist. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
I think that's her thing on the mission now. I think she might be not running point, but like in the background with tech, maybe.
Like,
Think
this
she could
isn't
be
the
good
right
at
way
that?
to go. It's like, why do you think that? Well, see, there's footsteps right here, all going to the right. I can see them, so we need to go to the left.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I got this. I got the scripts beforehand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
And it lives up to like Star Wars has always been about respecting how good kids are at stuff. Or like Luke is a teenager, Leia's a teenage. Like trusting a kid is not really outside the realm of possibility for Star Wars storytelling. So I like the idea that the Bad Batch is like, oh, you're really good at this. We now have a reason that you're very good at strategy. Awesome.
Yeah.
We will use that, you know?
I think kind of rounding it out, this is the very beginning of, let's say, like the Moths or the governors.
Yeah.
Right? Because who is governing Raxus now since the senator is gone? So they have to have like Imperials
Right.
there, but you have to have a head Imperial. Maybe they start inputting these authority figures on these planets.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed now. We said this from the start of Bounty Hunt, like seeing the Empire slowly take over politically throughout the Bad Batch, having them be witnesses to it. I think this is probably the most overt we've seen so far of literally ousting a senator, taking over the ruling of a separatist planet. I think was a great thing. I think we're going to continue to see that, and that does kind of line up with what you're saying, Corey. I do think we end the season probably with the rebellion or with this a faction of Rex or someone, because it does seem like I do think this is going to be a multi-season show. I think they mentioned that earlier, but I think season 1 is on the run, maybe getting Crosshair back, joining the rebellion, and season 2 will be working with a rebel cell. It really feels like that's where they're going.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
And I love it. Well, any final thoughts for you guys on this one? I mean, we talked again. It's always funny for being a filler-ish episode. There's still so much to get. There's still so much to love, and we've said it once. We've said it a million times. This animation is not normal. All other shows step up and recognize that the bar has been lifted for all animation forever. It's just incredible stuff.
I'm just noticing all the puzzle pieces too throughout the Star Wars universe. So when we first saw episode 4, we see like the Empire take hold, and then like take a step back in Rebels, we see the Empire, the beginning of the Empire, but we don't really know how they got there. And then say the Bad Batch is just implementing the Empire itself, right? So they're just putting in a curfew. They're just sending in, hey, change out your credits to Imperial credits kind of stuff. And you're like, now it's all coming into place, and they're doing it through animation, which is awesome because they're making this story whole. And you can, with people who saw this early on, like us with the prequels, older with the original trilogy, now they can watch that with their kids, and they can have the same aha moment with their kids as they're having it with other people.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I had there's a Twitter user called Alderanian Rose, who I believe, I don't want to get this wrong, I think it's from the Ukraine, and she talked that she would watch Rebels with the kids in Ukraine when there was like that takeover, when Russia was doing that giant takeover a couple years ago, to explain to the kids, like, this is kind of what's happening. Like, this is what it looks like. And the stuff that's actually happening in the world, like Star Wars is showing this stuff, like, little by little. They're like, oh, we won't treat you any different because you're a separatist, but we need your senator to kind of give an oath of allegiance. And then, oh, we're not going to do this, but, and I think it's really good for kids, like in the bigger scale, to see this stuff, to like say, hey, keep an eye out. Like, you won't get to keep your calamari flan if, maybe it raises a little red flag. So
sure.
I do have one more final thought that's on a similar level of depth about the shortcomings of humanity. Avi Singh, great hat. Fantastic hat.
Oh my, and monocle and hat.
The hologram monocle.
So I will say, for a heartbeat, I thought it could have been like Inspector Thanos from the Vader, because he had like mug shots and a monocle. Yeah. And there's not that many people in the galaxy that can pull that off, but obviously is one of them. His hat was not as good as Snoke's hat, but it is a close second, I think. He looked like he could be like at the front of a parade. He looked like a fun guy.
You know what?
He needs one of those scepters with like a big gem on the end of it, and he like
he's the Grand Marshal of the parade.
Yeah, exactly. The other sort of odd element of this episode was the vase that like
the vase.
Yeah, that came back like 4 times. It kept why? It's such a random thing to put in here.
And then he chucked it at a clone trooper. I know. I never cared much for it.
Just threw it. It was hilarious. It's hilarious, man. Yeah. It was good.
Like, all these dark topics, and they still keep it fun. They still keep it funny. This is a funny, well-rounded show, and it's gonna emotionally devastate us. I know. Like it was too funny, too fun, too light at the end here. I'm like, oh no, we've played this game before. I've read The Rising Storm. I know it's gonna be rough. But
don't you bring that up? My heart is still in pieces.
Charles just read on that note, everyone. Teaser I'm trying to do more in these bounty hunts. Tomorrow night we will be missing Corey on the Living Force, but we will be having a show that's a High Republic recap show. There will be no spoilers for Wave 2, but we're going to address kind of how the first week went. We're going to compare the launch of Wave 1 to the launch of Wave 2. We're going to talk about some of our favorite designs that have appeared in the show, and also talk about spoiler culture, because our Discord and our community has been amazing with spoilers, but that's hard to do. So tomorrow night's show, come tune in to geek out about all the High Republic greatness that's been going on, and learn how to avoid maybe some spoilers if you haven't read stuff yet, and how to kind of take that with you as you go forward in your Star Wars reading journey. But my friends, that is going to do it for this week's episode of Bounty Hunt. Keep your eyes out for our next hunt, and we'll be diving into episode 11. This one goes to 11 of The Bad Batch. A special thank you to Cheryl Bell, Patrick Ortiz, and Carl Sander on our Jedi High Council, and Elizabeth Cloutier, Jason Mitchell, Freddie C., and Sally and Chris Eilerson and our Alliance High Command for their amazing support that makes this show possible. Go ahead and tell us all your thoughts about The Bad Batch in our Discord community at utini.com/Discord. Keep those spoiler tags going. And be sure to follow our main show on Twitter at Living Force Pod, and all of us for our latest thoughts about all things Star Wars at Eric Eilerson, at Doc Star Wars MD, at C. Henkel, and at Boss Wes. Until next time, bye. I don't know. Have a good Sunday. Fireworks suck. I hate them.